The time is 12:51, and we're now back on the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cavanaugh. I'm handing you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. This is an email that is base labeled US 37960. It's an email from Michael McDonald to you and Justin Fox, dated March 13th, 2025 at 3:44 p.m. Direct your attention to the second paragraph. It says, this is a follow-up to confirm that you both now have login accounts into the NEH system, which will allow you to review our current and past grant awards. And I'm going to skip the next several paragraphs until the paragraph says, also, Nate, thanks for sending Adam and me the list of grants that were awarded during President Biden's administration, January 20th, 2021 through January 19th, 2025, at NEH. No rush, but whenever we can all find a time to meet, Adam and I did have some questions both about the list and about the summary conclusions you drew from it. So had you already expressed some summary conclusions to Mr. McDonald about that list of Biden administration grants?
Not outside of the list we already reviewed, no.
But as to the list that you already reviewed, you expressed some summary conclusions to Mr. McDonald about it?
The list that we reviewed on the screen before break.
Right.
That's what we sent to Mike and Adam.
So I think I understand. The conclusions that you drew, the summary conclusions, were reflected in the spreadsheet, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And you didn't talk to him otherwise about those conclusions?
No.
Okay. Okay. Handing you Plaintiff's Exhibit 14. This is the document bait stamped US 50669. This is an email chain between you, Justin Fox, and Ethan Chautran, titled NEH Review, correct?
Correct.
Dated March 17th, 10:47 a.m. At the bottom of the page, there's an earlier email, just a few rows down, Sunday, March 16th, 2025 at 7:28 p.m. from Justin Fox, where Justin Fox says, Nate, see attached PDF and Excels to share with Mike/Adam tonight for them to review. Correct?
For them to review tomorrow.
For them to review tomorrow, I am. And then you respond on March 17th at the top saying, nice job, this looks great. We just need to follow up with them today to make sure they are aligned on executing the plan quickly. That's what it says, right?
Right.
So what's the plan referring to here?
The plan is canceling the grants that were flagged in the review files that Justin is referencing in his previous email.
Okay, and these were the grants that you had identified before you reviewed the list from NEH?
These are the list. No, this is. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
These were grants that you had identified before reviewing the list of grants that NEH had supplied, that NEH staff had identified as potentially being related to diversity, equity, inclusion?
The final list that we ended up recommending to Mike and Adam were a combination of both our original list and their employee reviewed list, and we created a synthesis of both of those to make a recommendation to Mike.
Okay, and this was what you were conveying in, or this is what Mr. Fox was sending you in this March 16th email?
Yes.
Okay. Why was there a need to execute the plan quickly?
The general pacing of DOGE was to try and make decisions and act quickly to avoid government employees dragging their feet on cancellations.
Aside from that general goal, did you receive any specific instruction to execute this plan quickly?
No.
No. Marking plaintiff's exhibit 15. Handing it to the witness. This is a document base stamped US 839. This is an email from Justin Fox to Mr. McDonald, Mr. Wolfson, and you're copied. And it says, Michael, Adam, hope you both had a good weekend. See attached for our review of NEH grants, census, and contracts. And then he has the same bullets from the prior email. And under grants, it says, we reviewed all active grants for DEI involvement and marked them accordingly. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And I know we talked about it somewhat already, but what is DEI referring to here?
It stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And what is your opinion of diversity, equity, inclusion?
My personal opinion?
Well, let's start with what does it mean to you?
It means diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Well, that's the label, but what do those words mean?
It means making decisions on a basis of something other than merit.
Okay. How does diversity differ from equity in that term? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't understand the label itself, frankly.
Okay. So to you, that's all it means, is any time a decision is made based on something other than merit, it is diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Objection.
I don't know if I would make that broad of a characterization, but directionally, yes.
How would you characterize it?
How I just characterize it to you.
And what is your personal opinion about diversity, equity, inclusion?
In what context?
In this context, in the context of federal grants having DEI involvement.
Objection.
Can you repeat the question again? My personal opinion on DEI with respect to NEH's grants?
Yes.
My opinion is that they are violating the executive order that the President of the United States signed. And in the context of a $2 trillion federal deficit, I think that they're wasteful and unnecessary.
So aside from the legal conclusion that they violate the executive order, and aside for what you said about wasteful spending in light of the deficit, do you have any other opinion about DEI grants?
Objection.
No.
Let's put on the screen US 847, which will be exhibit number 16. Yes. It's a spreadsheet, but it's in PDF form. And I'll represent to you that this is the spreadsheet. This is one of the spreadsheets attached to this March 17th email. Does this look familiar to you?
It looks like a file Justin would have prepared.
So Justin prepared this.
Yes.
And then going back to the email that's in front of you.
Sorry.
Yep. It says page 1 is a summarized view of the grant details on page 2 to 89. That's what it says in the email. And then the email says grants are shown on pages 2 to 89 in descending order of dollar amount by division. Page 2 through 89 shows details for active grants which were flagged as having DEI involvement only. It does not show details for active grants without DEI involvement or grants which are expired. And then it says, please review the active grants flagged for DEI involvement and mark your decision in the column titled MMAW in the Excel. So if we could look at, this is page 2 of the PDF. There's a column that says DEI rationale. Do you see that?
I do, yes. Can you zoom in a little bit, please?
Zoom in?
Yes. Yep.
So I'll just read that first row. It says, NABS's project aims to create a national digital platform for boarding school archival collections, promoting collective efforts, engagement, and sustained involvement. That's what it says, right?
That's right.
Did you and Mr. Fox come up with this rationale?
I believe Justin did. Can you go to the full description of the grant as well to the right?
Sure.
Can you read? Can you read that?
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
So you said that you believe Mr. Fox came up with the DEI rationale.
That's right.
Do you know how he did that?
It would have been by reading the grant description and using that as the primary basis,
How do you know that?
because that was well understood of how we reviewed grants at DOGE for DEI, is by reading them.
That's something you talked to him about,
Yes.
and he told you that that's how he did it?
He didn't explicitly tell me that that's how he did it, but it was well understood that you were required to read the actual grant description before requesting that it be terminated.
That's something that you required him to do?
It was just well understood among the DOGE team and culture that if you're going to request that something be terminated or cut, that you had to thoroughly understand what it entailed before requesting that the agency head terminates it.
Did Mr. Fox use artificial intelligence to come up with the DEI rationale?
No.
All right, let's look at another document. This will be plaintiff 16. I think we can take this down.
Wasn't that 16?
Number 16, yeah.
I'm sorry. This will be plaintiff 17. So this is labeled US 753. This is another email chain. And you see at the top, this is email from Mr. McDonald to Mr. Wolfson dated March 19th, 2025, correct?
Correct.
And if you go down into the bottom of the chain, the last email in the chain, or the first in time, is that March 16th, 2025 email from Dustin Fox that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see in the chain that on, this is on the second page, Mr. Fox says, let us know when works best for a meeting tomorrow or Thursday to walk through this. Appreciate it's a lot of information, just let us know.
Is that a question?
Yeah, do you see where it says that?
Yes.
And then if you look at the later email, which is on the first page, it looks like you then went ahead and did meet on Wednesday, March 19th at NEH. Does that appear to be correct?
Appears to be correct, yeah.
Okay. Do you recall that meeting?
I don't, to be honest.
From this email chain, it looks like it would have been a meeting between the four of you.
Yes.
Yourself, Mr. Fox, Mr. McDonald, and Mr. Wolfson.
Yes.
You don't recall anyone else at that meeting? I know you said you didn't recall specifically, but
Occasionally, Mike would have brought in his, I believe it was the director of HR or the interim acting general counsel, but I don't recall if she was in this meeting or not.
what was her name?
I don't remember.
Okay. So this was a meeting that you had shortly after Mr. Fox sent over spreadsheet. Does that refresh your recollection as to what was discussed at this meeting?
I think it was a meeting in person to understand what Mike and Adam's view were of the grant recommendation that we had proposed for termination.
Okay. Do you recall what they said?
They, I believe, were directionally in line with our recommendations, but had flagged that certain grants we flagged for termination were not only related to DEI, but they were also just generally, in our view, wasteful grants. And so they were trying to understand why we had recommended grants outside of just DEI for termination, to which our response was, our mandate outside of just DEI is to help find wasteful spending within each agency, and these are additional ones we feel are wasteful.
Do you remember specifically what Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson said?
I don't specifically remember now.
And what you were saying just now about the difference between grants that might implicate DEI and grants that might not but were otherwise wasteful, was that something that Mr. McDonald said to your recollection, or Mr. Wolfson, or?
I believe it was both of them.
Okay. And how did you respond when they said this?
When they said what?
That they had seen the list and seen grants that were discussing DEI, but wanted to understand why there were other grants that didn't implicate a DEI on the list. What did you say?
We said what I just told you, which was that in addition to helping them stay compliant with the executive orders, there's another mandate separate from that, which is we're working with each agency head to identify potential wasteful spending, which included grants, contracts, and personnel. And so extending beyond the initial scope, which was DEI, we then went a step further to propose an incremental set of grants that were also, in our view, wasteful.
You said incremental. Do you have a sense of the scope offhand?
I don't.
Do you have a sense if it was the majority of grants, or?
I really don't. It could have been 50-50, but I don't know.
Okay. And what did Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson say when you explained that?
Broadly, they were in line with the idea of, for lack of a better phrase, wiping the slate clean with NEH's grants. Outside of the America 250 initiative and the Garden of Heroes initiative, which was a priority of the White House, they were open to effectively, they were open to the idea of cutting grants beyond just ones related to DEI.
And you said, I think you used a phrase, wiping the slate clean. Was that something that you said or something that they said?
I think that's something Mike said. In the context of, yeah, it was something Mike said.
Okay. And you said that they were broadly aligned. Was there a sense in which they weren't fully aligned with the set of grants you had proposed?
Sorry, repeat the question, please.
I believe you had said that McDonald and Wolfson were broadly aligned with your proposal. Was there a sense in which they weren't fully aligned, at least initially?
I think the initial impression was that we were cutting a fairly large percentage of the outstanding grants during the Biden administration. Some included DEI, some didn't, and I think they were initially not surprised, but let's say surprised by the amount of grants we recommended for termination. And there was a little bit of a back and forth in terms of what the final list ended up being, but they ultimately were amenable to that idea.
Do you have a sense of like the percentage of grants that you were proposing for termination at this time from the Biden administration? Was upwards of 70, 80, 90%?
I'm sure we have the data,
Sure.
So I don't know. You can do the math, or we can do it together.
Okay. Do you recall if there was a plan for next steps after this meeting at NEH?
The plan was basically we left a list of recommended grants, contracts, and
You what a list of recommended contracts? The plan was
we provided them with a list of grants, contracts, and personnel that we recommended they review for termination. The ball was then in their court to review those lists, agree as a leadership team, and then come back to us with the next set of actions, which would have been to effectively execute the terminations.
Let's go to the next document. So the plaintiff's 18. Document base stamped US 826. This is an email chain. Mr. McDonald, yourself, Mr. Fox, Mr. Wolfson. The first email in the chain at the top is dated March 27th, 9:46 p.m. Let's turn to the last email in the chain. Well, first in time, last in the pages. This is a March 19th email from Justin Fox, 6:07 p.m. So this, if I'm getting the chronology correct, this would have been the evening after your meeting at NEH earlier that day. And Fox says, Mike, Adam, see attached updated spreadsheets and their descriptions below. Do you know why Mr. Fox updated the spreadsheets after the meeting?
Probably because Adam and Mike had a little bit of a back and forth with us on what the final list of terminated grants would be, which was common in our work with the agencies that we worked with.
Do you recall what that back and forth was?
Not explicitly. I think they had views on specific grants, but I don't recall the exact ones.
Later in the email, the last line, Fox says, let us know how the meeting goes with the board tomorrow. Feel free to call with questions. What is board referring to here?
I believe it was the NEH council that Mike was responsible for leading as the new acting chair, which comprised of several members. I don't know exactly who they were.
Do you know what that meeting was going to be about?
I think it was a standard, basically, board meeting. I don't know what the agenda was of the meeting.
Did you talk about that board meeting at your March 19th meeting with McDonald and Wilson?
He let us know that he had an upcoming board meeting, but was not clear on the exact contents of the meeting, so I don't know.
Did he say that he was going to talk to them about your proposal to cut a number of grants?
He told us that he was going to talk to the board about cutting grants with respect to ones that related to the executive orders.
Going back to the first page of this chain, on March 27th, Justin Fox sends an email and says, Mike, do you have the consolidated list of grants you've approved for termination? Let us know so we can be prepped for tomorrow. And then McDonald says in response, and this is the top email, Adam and I were only able to complete our review this afternoon, and we won't have the list ready until tomorrow morning. We may be able to provide it with it before you arrive at 10. If we can, we will. Thanks. Do you recall that back and forth?
I'm copied. I'm sure I saw the email, yeah.
Okay. If you have that Thacker declaration still, I have to find mine actually. Yeah, you have it. You go to paragraph 13.
Yep.
Here McDonald says, on March 17th to 18th, I worked with NEH Assistant Chairman for Programs Adam Wolfson to conduct a further individualized review of the spreadsheets of open grants created by program staff. So is that something that you and Fox told McDonald and Wolfson to do on March 17th and 18th?
I don't recall explicitly telling them to review those. They were reviewing the grants that we had recommended for termination.
And what did you tell him when you asked him to take a look at those grants?
I think this was Justin telling him because he was running point on NEH for our team, but it was something to the effect of review our recommendations and let us know which you disagree with.
And I know we talked about it some, but can you just say again what the goal was, or the guiding principle, or the criteria that you were asking them to apply.
There were two guiding principles. One was through the lens of the executive orders that were signed with respect to DEI, preference, et cetera, the ones on the pages we've now referenced. The other was a list that we came up with, which at our discretion fell in the category of wasteful spending in the context of the broader deficit, and ones we felt did not align with America 250 initiative and the Garden of Heroes initiative. And here's the master list, review it and let us know if there are any that you'd like to keep.
Did you provide any further gloss or instruction on what was meant by wasteful spending?
No.
What would you have expected them to do to determine whether something was wasteful?
The two priorities that we know were to be kept were anything around grants related to the founding of the country, related to this America 250 initiative in 2026, and in this Garden of Heroes museum that the White House was interested in building with NEH funds. So those were the cornerstones of what we knew to keep. Otherwise, everything was up to be evaluated for potential termination.
Okay.
We didn't recommend that, but that was the lens by which we were evaluating things through.
Okay. Because those ideas, America 250th, Garden of Heroes, those were things aligned with the administration in your view?
Yes.
And anything else would fall into the category of wasteful?
Not explicitly, but potentially, and subject to be reviewed.
Okay. What would be a reason why something would be saved if it didn't align with those two viewpoints?
Can we pull up the list of grants that were kept versus cut, and we can go through each one?
I don't know if that's a great use of time, but we can. But does anyone come to mind right now sitting here?
No, there were 1,200 grants, roughly.
Do you remember roughly how many were saved?
I don't.
Okay.
A large percentage of outstanding grants were cut.
Okay. We might come back to that later, but we'll leave it there for now. Okay. Back to the Thacker Declaration, which I think you have in front of you. Paragraph 14. He says, on March 19, 2025, NEH CIO Bobley sent NEH Assistant Chair for Planning and Operations Pranita, Pranita, Raghavan, Raghavan, a final spreadsheet containing only those projects that I and Mr. Wolfson deemed to conflict with President Trump's executive orders. And then in the following paragraph it says, on March 20th, 2025, Mr. Raghavan, Raghavan, transmitted this list to the Office of Management and Budget as directed by the presidential executive orders. Do you know what, if anything, OMB did with this list?
I don't know what they did with the list.
Did you discuss this list with anyone at OMB?
No.
Did you discuss the grant terminations at all with anyone at OMB?
No.
Did OMB have any role in this?
Evaluation of grants? No.
Next paragraph. On March 26, 2025, Mr. Wolfson and I reviewed additional spreadsheets of grants that included those the program directors had initially listed as having no connection to the president's executive orders. So was this in response to that email chain we were just reviewing with you and Mr. Fox, where you're exchanging spreadsheets and he's sending an updated spreadsheet?
I assume so, yes, but I want to find the exact email. Yeah, I assume so.
It's all around the same time period, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you and Mr. Fox, or it sounds like Mr. Fox maybe, flagged grants that program directors had initially listed as having no connection to the president's executive orders. You flagged those for further review.
Yes.
Okay. I'm marking plaintiffs 19. This is labeled AR10. If you could turn to the second page of this email chain. And I'm directing your attention to a March 28th email from Fox to McDonald and Wolfson, copying you. And this is March 28th, and Justin Fox says, Mike, Adam, thanks for the productive time today. So I take it there was a meeting on March 28th.
I believe so. I may not have been present in that meeting.
Okay. This was just a few days before the ultimate terminations were sent out on April 2nd.
Yeah, I believe Justin attended that meeting by himself.
Okay. Do you know why you didn't attend?
I was busy with other agencies.
Did you talk with Justin before the meeting?
I don't believe explicitly, but I knew the status of the project with NEH, which was we were in the middle of determining what the final list of grant terminations would be.
And what was the purpose of the meeting?
To align with Mike and Adam on the final list.
So you weren't at the meeting, but you know what was discussed at the meeting? What happened at the meeting?
I don't know the specifics of the meeting. I wasn't there.
Did Fox give you a readout afterwards?
I don't believe so. No.
In this email, he says, see attached active grants for your review for DEI or wasteful spend, approximately 440 grants. Flagging, these are the ones NEH staff marked as NA for DEI. So again, these were grants that NEH staff had identified as not promoting diversity, equity, inclusion in their view. Correct?
Correct.
Do you know why Fox was sending this spreadsheet to McDonald on March 28th?
Why he was sending it? He was sending it because he wanted to get Mike and Adam's opinion on grants that we viewed as wasteful but didn't fall in the DEI category for potential termination.
And then he says, let us know on these. I'll circle back on the total proposed cut based on the list Brett gave me. Brett Bobley there. You take it?
Yes.
He says, for your benefit, I've also attached the proposed RIF plan. And then he says, could you put us in touch with someone who could help us gain admin access to Microsoft? Why did you and Fox want access to Microsoft?
Part of our operating procedure with DOGE was to get system administrator access. We called it sysadmin, which allowed us to operate as if we were an administrator within the agency for provisioning email accounts, access to critical systems, etc.
Was this operating procedure set forth in any document?
No.
How did you know it was operating procedure?
It was discussed openly during all hands meetings.
By whom?
Multiple members of the DOGE team.
Was it discussed by Mr. Davis as something you should do?
Yes.
And you did it at other agencies?
Yes, to the maximum extent that we could.
Which other agencies do you recall?
The vast majority of agencies in which we were onboarded.
So then in the next email, McDonald says, my understanding from our Friday meeting was that the idea was to check on whether employees were logging into their email accounts on a regular basis, but if I misunderstood what you needed, please let me know. So it sounds like McDonald did misunderstand the purpose of logging in, right?
I don't think he misunderstood. I guess I don't know.
Well, you said that the reason you were asking for control. Could you say it again? Why you were asking for control of the Microsoft account?
Yeah, it was mostly in the context of conducting RIF plans. We needed to see which employees were actively logging into their accounts for usage, which employees were engaged, which weren't. And it was also important if we needed to make changes to anything within the agency with respect to user accounts that we could do so without having to rely on a CIO figure like Brett.
Okay. Was it also for purposes of terminating grants and contracts potentially?
No.
So it's unrelated to that?
Yes.
Okay, it was more focused on RIFs.
Yes.
Okay.
In NEH's case, they had a completely separate system for provisioning grants.
What was that system called?
I don't remember. Brett Bodley was the administrator of it.
Yeah. Okay, then if you look on the first page, on March 31st at 11:35, Fox sends an email to McDonald saying, Mike, could you pass along your cell number? Sorry, don't have it saved. I need to catch up with you on something time sensitive. You see that?
I do. Yes.
You know what he's referring to there?
I don't.
No idea.
No idea. I assume it was related to the status of the cancellations that were being discussed.
A couple hours later, 12:29 p.m., Fox says, Mike, please call me as soon as you can. Do you know what that's referring to?
The same topic.
But you said you don't know, but you assume it.
I assume that's the case. Is he was trying to get a status update from Mike and Adam on their review of our proposed cuts across people, contracts, and grants.
But why would he have needed a status update on a time-sensitive basis on March 31st?
Because our general operating procedure at DOGE was to try and get this work done quickly, and this had now been dragging out for 2 or 3 weeks with NEH, and so we were trying to push Mike along to move faster with agreeing on a plan.
Is that something that you and Fox discussed?
It wasn't explicitly discussed, but it was implicitly discussed that we wanted to try and get the agency heads to act quickly on their proposed plans.
Did you, but at NEH specifically with McDonald, did you discuss with Fox, okay, we need to apply pressure now because it's been 2 to 3 weeks?
That was not explicitly discussed, but that was the implication of the culture of DOGE was to try and get these folks to move fast.
Yeah.
So we were comfortable applying pressure to the extent that we needed to.
Understood, but I'm just trying to understand why on March 31st, all of a sudden, Fox is saying, I need to talk about something time sensitive. It seems to suggest there was something specific.
There wasn't something specific. It was
Objections.
just, please.
Go ahead.
There wasn't something specific other than us applying pressure to get Mike to act on this plan.
And is that something you and Fox discussed before he sent the email?
I don't believe Justin and I discussed it.
So your best understanding is that Fox just all of a sudden at 11:35 on March 31st thought, I'm going to call Mike, I'm going to email Mike and say I need to talk to you about something time sensitive, but it was just to apply pressure to make him move more quickly.
Yes.
Objection.
And what's that understanding based on?
The broad operating procedures of DOGE, of which I've done the same thing in other agencies.
Can you provide an example?
Not off the top of my head, no.
And then an hour later at 12:29 when he says, please call me as soon as you can, you don't know why he sent that an hour later?
Objection.
No, I don't.
You think it was just the same, that he was just trying to get McDonald to move quickly? I mean, this is just less than an hour later.
Right.
Objection.
But our initial meeting with Mike was on Wednesday, March 12th, so 19 days later, in the context of DOGE, would have been almost 3 weeks of trying to align on a list of grants to terminate that effectively had not changed materially over the course of the beginning to the end. And so we were trying to push Mike to move faster on the plan because it had been almost 3 weeks.
So nothing happened, though, from March 30th to March 31st, from 11:35 to 12:29 p.m. Nothing happened besides the passage of time, is what you're saying, to lead to this email.
Objection.
Yes.
All right, so then Fox emails again at 12:52 p.m. This is less than half an hour from the prior email. I'll just read it. Mike, call me when you get the chance. We need a game plan for effectuating RIFs, final grant terminations, and contract cancellations by tomorrow a.m. We will carry these plans out before the end of the week. We're getting pressure from the top on this and would prefer that you remain on our side, but let us know if you're no longer interested. So who from the top was pressuring you on this?
Nobody explicitly. Again, Mike's perception of where DOGE sat within the federal government was we had a direct line of communication with the White House. And so we were there to help enforce the executive orders that were signed. So as a pressure tactic, we would tell Mike that we were getting pressure from basically the White House to effectuate these contract and grant terminations that are aligned with the EO. So it was a time pressure tactic. There was no person explicitly putting pressure on Justin to send this email.
What about implicitly?
No.
So it's just untrue?
I don't know if I don't think it's untrue.
Was someone applying pressure from the top to terminate grants quickly?
No. The top pressure in the backdrop of our work at NEH was there were EOs signed relating to terminating grants related to DEI initially. So we could use that as a backstop to apply pressure to Mike to move quickly on a contract and grant cutting plan.
Was anyone at the White House involved in grant terminations at NEH?
No.
Never communicated with anyone from the White House about that?
About grant terminations?
Yeah.
No.
And when I say the White House, I mean the White House and all of its components, Executive Office of the President, OMB.
I believe Justin Imonetti, who was a DOGE lawyer, who I believe was onboarded by EO, the Executive Office of the President, he would have been involved in the course of our work, just basically making sure that it was, that the work we were doing was approved.
Did you discuss this specific email with Mr. Fox where he says we're getting pressure from the top?
No, I did not.
Didn't message with him about it on Signal that he was going to do it?
No, we would have been working in the office together at GSA and verbally saying we need to get Mike to move quickly on this plan.
Okay. And your strategy for doing that was just like making up this sense of pressure, emailing every hour or so until he responded?
Well, as you can see from the emails, this has not happened previously in the 3 weeks we've been working with NEH. So it wasn't used frequently, but when it had been going on for 3 weeks and we'd not heard an update from Mike, we were applying more pressure to get him to act on the plan.
Yeah. Did you say, let us know, or Fox says, let us know if you're no longer interested. Did you have some sense that McDonald, wasn't interested in the terminations anymore?
I don't believe so, but the nature of their communications with us had slowed down relative to prior weeks, and so we wanted to make sure that he was still on board with carrying out this termination plan across not just grants, but also the RIFs and contracts.
You say Fox says would prefer that you remain on our side. Do you know what he meant by that, by on our side?
I think just aligned with the White House's agenda and following the EOs. Our side is, I don't think he was referring to an actual side per se, but it was the broad concept of, are you going to comply with the executive orders or not?
I'm going to mark the next exhibit, which is Plaintiff's 20. might come back to some of these, but I'm just going to skip ahead a bit. This is labeled AR-15. Okay, so I want to direct your attention first to this March 31st, 11:52 p.m. email from Mr. Fox, where he's emailing Beth Stewart and Brett Bobley. He says, "Hope you've been doing well. Could you please send us an eGMS poll containing the below columns tomorrow on active grants? Appreciate the help. Let us know where you have any questions," and then he lists the specific columns that he's looking for. You're copied on this email. Why were you and Mr. Fox requesting this information late at night on March 31st?
Well, we worked late at night the entire time of DOGE, so that's not atypical. But we were asking for a pool of their data from eGMS, which is their grant system, and we're cross-referencing that data with what we were getting from USA Spending to ensure there were no discrepancies in what we saw versus what they had as their source of truth.
Okay.
It was an extra step of accuracy.
Okay. That's it?
Yes.
Because you had exchanged a number of spreadsheets previously. We've talked about some of them. Spreadsheets that NEH staff had put together, spreadsheets that you and Mr. Fox had put together. The reason why you were asking for this information now was to confirm the validity of that information with the USA Spending, with the NEH information.
You'll have to ask Justin. I believe that's what he was getting at here. It's just to do a final cross-reference on the accuracy of, and frankly to make sure we had a complete list of all grants because we were getting close to executing these terminations.
Okay. Did you have a sense at this point when you had hoped to execute the terminations?
We didn't have a specific date in mind, but the general goal was push for as soon as possible.
Had you discussed that with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson?
It was very clear that we were trying to execute it ASAP.
Did you receive that information from Ms. Stewart, Beth Stewart?
Based on her email, I assume so, but I wasn't copied on her response, so I don't know.
Do you know what Fox did with it, or what you and Fox did with it?
I'm sure Justin, I don't know. My guess is that Justin took that list and compared it against the list that we had been speaking about to make sure that there were no missing grants in eGMS that were not from USA Spending. You'll notice in Beth's email it says there are often common to have small differences between eGMS and the USA Spending records. So again,
Slow down a little bit.
sure.
Common, you'll notice there are,
The email says it is common to have small differences between eGMS and those records found in USA Spending. So he was cross-referencing the list to ensure just thoroughness in our work before we had a final list of grants for termination.
And to generate that final list of grants for termination, did you use this list that Beth had sent you, or some other list?
You'll have to ask Justin, but my sense is that we had a master Excel file which included both the data from USA Spending and the data from eGMS. There was likely, you'll have to ask Justin, a very small discrepancy in what was in those two systems, and to the extent that we were missing one, we evaluated those through the same criteria and then put it into a master file for them to sign off on their termination.
So Mr. Fox generated the final list?
Yes.
Market document is P21. This is labeled AR21. This is an email chain. It starts off April 1st, 8:06 p.m. from McDonald to Fox, Wolfson. You're copied. Direct your attention to the first in time email in the chain sent from McDonald to Fox at 10:07 a.m. I'm going to read a good portion of this just as a background for questions, so you'll indulge me. Start with the second paragraph. As you know, after our staff reviewed all the awards made over the past 4 years and rated them high, medium, or low in terms of promoting DEI, Adam and I carefully reviewed the staff's work over 2 full days and sent you that first spreadsheet, which we feel very confident about. It's also the list that we sent to OMB. The attached list concerns, as you know, applications that staff rated NA, that is, involving products that seem to have no applicability to promoting DEI. And we feel much less confident about it. This is because many of the DEI rationale comments relating to products on the attached spreadsheet say things such as does not relate directly to DEI topics, or more emphatically, there is no direct connection to DEI. We think these products are harmless when it comes to promoting DEI. But in the interest of time, because we know you want to move quickly, I assume he meant, we didn't give these applications the individualized consideration that we did to those in the first spreadsheet. Accordingly, we only explicitly initialed a few important projects, such as the Papers of George Washington, whose cancellation would not reflect well on any of us. And the same could be said for many other listed projects. It would take too long at this point to review the NA list appropriately. Therefore, our recommendation is that wherever the DEI rationale on the spreadsheet makes clear that there is no DEI component to the project, there is no justification for canceling the project's funding, and you should allow it to continue. Who decided to reject that recommendation from Mr. McDonald?
Objection.
Who decided to reject what recommendation?
The recommendation to save projects listed as NA, for which he says there is no justification for canceling the project's funding.
I don't understand the question.
So Mr. McDonald here is saying in this email that there are projects that NEH staff have flagged as NA, meaning not applicable for DEI. And he says, our recommendation is that wherever the DEI rationale on the spreadsheet makes clear that there is no DEI component, there is no justification for canceling the product's funding, and you should allow it to continue. That's their recommendation. Who rejected that recommendation?
Objection.
Justin and I both rejected that recommendation because if you read his last paragraph, that's why.
Yeah, let's look at that last paragraph. So he says, just the last sentence, either way, as you've made clear, it's your decision on whether to continue funding any of the projects on this list.
I meant the sentence before that.
Okay, but I want to ask you just about that, the second sentence. So he says, as you've made clear. So do you know what conversations he's referring to here?
There was no specific conversation that I'm aware of where we said it's our decision to determine which projects should be kept or not.
Okay, but you made it clear over the course of conversations.
Objection.
That was never explicitly stated or implicitly stated. Our understanding as DOGE was we had no authority to cancel projects, grants, RIFs, etc. It was solely up to the head of the agency based on our recommendations.
Then at 3:50 p.m., This is AR 22, the prior page. Fox responds. He copies you. You weren't included on the first email. Do you know why he copied you?
For visibility.
For what?
Visibility, just so I was aware of the communications.
And Fox says, as discussed, we've collected the grants you flagged to keep, and a few of those pertaining to America 250th, or within priorities of the administration. So he says, as discussed. So was there a discussion with McDonald and Wolfson between these two emails that you recall?
Excuse me.
I don't recall. If there was a conversation, I wasn't a party to it. At this point, Justin was almost primarily running point on the remaining turns of grants for cancellation.
All right, so we'd have to ask Mr. Fox if he calls that conversation.
Yes.
All right. This might be a good time for a break, 10-minute break.
The time is 1:48. We're not going off the record.